Lady Rose the name, now you know. Taking you places wherever we go. News you can use, truth in the flow, and real talk on your favorite shows. Ooh, it's Lady Rose, catch the vibe, come on, let's roll. From travel tips to all the tea, she's breaking it down so effortlessly. So hit that like, don't miss a beat. Lady Rose World, it's fire, it's sweet. Ooh, it's Lady Rose, catch the vibe, come on, let's roll. From travel tips to all the tea, she's breaking it down so effortlessly. So hit that like, don't miss a beat. Lady Rose World, it's fire, it's sweet. Yeah. Lady Rose the name, now you know. Taking you places wherever we go. News you can use, truth in the flow, and real talk on your favorite shows. Ooh, it's Lady Rose, catch the vibe, come on, let's roll. From travel tips to all the tea, she's breaking it down so effortlessly. So hit that like, don't miss a beat. Lady Rose World, it's fire, it's sweet. Yeah.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I thought we better get together and do this review about Love and Marriage Huntsville because I have a busy week, and tomorrow I will be headed out of town for a little bit. So I'm definitely not going to be available to do it, and I won't be back until probably late Tuesday evening. So let's get this out the way right now. Let me do some pleasantries before we get started. Hello, Symmetry. Thanks for joining Living for Me. Good evening, Gail Francis. Thank you guys for coming in. Let's talk about this. I thought last night's episode was it was decent. It was good. I enjoyed it. I really trying to see where we're gonna go with this, right? So it was interesting, to say the least. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you don't mind, tell a friend that Lady Rose over here trying to talk about something. And I'm going to invoke the fair use disclaimer. Some material in this video is used under U.S. copyright fair use, section 107, for purposes such as commentary, criticism, news reporting, and educating. We're going to do a lot of commentary and a whole lot of criticism today. After watching the show last night, I thought that it was very interesting. Very, very interesting. I had I'm again proud of Destiny because she showed up and showed out last night. Martell, I think he just don't get it. I don't know what the deal is with him, but I just think he does not get it. And I don't know what it's going to take for him to get. All views expressed in this live are alleged, in my opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. Don't go out of your way to dislike anybody that we're going to be discussing today, because I'm just up here talking, honey. It means absolutely nothing. Yeah, but I think Martell he doesn't get it. I don't think he sees himself in anything that he does. I think that the very fact that he's talking to Marsol about what has happened, I think he only sees him being the victim. He doesn't see how he's treated someone else. And I think that is super unfortunate for him and Marsol, because I don't know if I would want a friend like that. And I kind of understand why Marsol is not caring about being his friend. I wouldn't want to be friends with someone who everything was about me. Because some things you have to acknowledge you're wrong, and then I can acknowledge my wrong, or we both can acknowledge they were wrong. But when you don't see the wrong that you do, I think you do yourself a disservice. And who wants to be a part of that? Nobody. No one wants to be a part of that. let's get on into it. The title of this episode was Humpsville, Alabama. Y'all, when I saw that, I screamed. I had to get a screenshot of that. Humpsville, Alabama was the title of this episode. So we are at season 10, episode number 8. This show is moving right along. It ain't waiting on nobody. It's moving right along. First scene was Martell and Chris. They met up at Martell's I guess it would be his rental property or his investment property, I guess is what he called it. Martell says that he wants to check the temperature of Chris regarding the conversation they had while they were at the guys' night out. And the conversation they had with Marcel. Martell asked Chris if he had just left the closing, and Chris stammers, but Chris does have on his name tag maybe he had left the closing, but we all know that Chris has had some issues with his license and all of that, yada yada yada. So we don't know what Chris was out here doing, but he had his little name tag on. He's trying to look official. But we do know people who've been fired from their job and scared to tell their wife, so they go to work every day, but they don't really be at work. They be at the clubs or wherever at the bar. They be just doing stuff, riding around in the car, sitting in the park. I don't know. I know somebody who did that for about 4 months before the wife realized that he had no job. But we're going to move right along. We ain't going to talk about that. Chris asked Martell if he was staging the house because Martell had this measuring tape and he was, kicking it on and measuring stuff, trying to look real busy. Martell says he is going to move Arion into that home, the rental property. Exactly for me, the shade. Intentionally shading. He said he's going to be moving Arion into the rental property. Wasn't Chris supposed to be selling Martell's investment? He was, Symmetry. But remember, last season, Martell took the investment property away from him and gave it to someone else. And then I guess it didn't sell. And even Chris even hit on that, that the property didn't sell. So it's just been sitting there idle. And Martell mentions about the amount of dust that was in the building. So, in the house. And, things that just sit, they get dusty. I have stuff around here that doesn't sit. Well, it does sit. That's why it gets dusty. But and I don't even know why some houses get more dusty than the other. My house, certain things, if I don't move them around, I have to go through and dust them at least once a week because things get dusty. But he said it's Alabama, so that's why. But yeah, that house has been sitting for, I know, at least a couple of years. But Chris was the original person who was going to sell the house. He, wanted Chris to list it. I don't know what happened, but Martell did give the listing to someone else. Martell says he's going to move Arion in. Martell says he won't be moving in Arion at least until after they are married. Chris said, "You're starting all over. you can just make this step and do this all over." And he said, "That's a big step, my brother." He said, "If you move her in your house and you don't get married, then what's next?" Which is my question. So if you move her in and you don't get married and your kid get grown, what you gonna do? You gonna put her out in the street? What's the next step? You can't be doing something without a plan. You have to have, I'm gonna move you in my house, but I'm gonna give you 3 or 4 months or 3 years or till the kid is something so old for you to get together or for us to get married. There has to be something, because at this point, Arion is really at the mercy of Martell, because tomorrow Martell can wake up and be like, I don't want you living in my house anymore. And he put her out or give her 15 days to move. Then, she's at his mercy, to be frank. And I don't think that's always a good move when it comes to ladies. You have to be careful how much control you give a man who is not your husband over your life. And I think moving into his property without having some type of agreement and written agreement, notarized, an attorney drawing it up, I think is bad business. But hey, do you, boo, do you? He said, then Martell, when Chris says, that's a big step, he said, well, that's my girl. But you moving your girl in, have you given your girl the deets of what you expect from her. Because I think that's unfair to move someone in and they really not know what to expect. Am I going to be here 6 months? Am I going to be here 6 years? What is going to happen before you put me out of here? Chris said Martell has been hanging around Ken way too long, and I kind of agree with that. Only to the point of is that Martell can be vindictive, and I think Ken can too, but I'm not sure. We're going to talk about Ken later. Let's move on down the road. Chris said he noticed Martell talking to Lance at the golf course the other day. And Martell says, crap happens. And he's, I guess, just speaking of the baby. And Chris said, I keep telling him the same thing I told you. Wrap that thing up. But y'all don't listen. Martell says, how many kids you got? And he looks over at Chris. Chris says 4. Then Martell responds, we don't listen, talking about each other. And then I put in quotation, Martell is going to say that Chris is taking a dig at him. Be careful now. Now, I wouldn't be surprised at the reunion if while they sitting down, Martell says that Chris was taking a dig at him, saying that he got a bunch of kids. Because he didn't wrap it up. Just don't be surprised. And if y'all hear it again, say I got it from Lady Rose. She said this was gonna happen. Martell said that the golf night was a crazy night. One of my lights done went out. Probably should have charged it. Chris said that they have been acting like this for a long time. Him and Marcel. And Chris told Martell that he and Marcel sounded like 2 big botches. Exactly what he said. Y'all sound like 2 big botches up there arguing. And then they played a montage of all of these interactions of Marcel and Martell fussing and arguing and fussing and arguing. You guys, give me a minute. Let me move this other ring light to this side because my small ring light, I haven't charged it in about 3 or 4 weeks and it just died. Give me 1 second. All right. That's better. So he said that, during the montage of them going back and forth, we've seen Martell and Marcel just keep switching and switching and switching on each other throughout the seasons. But I must say that even though they've been going back and forth throughout the seasons, it's usually Marcel responding to something that Martell has said. It's usually not Marcel starting anything. It's normally him returning the favor back to Martell after Martell has said something. And he said, Chris said, what is the problem? Because if you take Marcel out of the equation, Martell is a stand-up guy. He says, if you just take Marcel out of it, you're really a good dude. And Chris asked for an example of Marcel's lies. Martell says the things Marcel has said about his ex-wife and Ariane. And I put in quotations, what has he said about your ex-wife? What has he said about either one of you guys that you can legitimately say is a lie? But we do know that Ariane has got on her Instagram, gone live, and talked about Marcel. She's talked about Tisha. She's talked about Maurice. She's talked about Martell. She has talked a lot, right? There's even a video that was recorded by her of her talking about all of them. Ariane has diarrhea of the mouth at times, and I don't think she probably realizes that she talks too much. What has Marcel said? No, he said, Martell said Marcel has been talking about Ariane, and the story keeps changing. I don't know what story keeps changing because I keep hearing the same story that he said about Ariane from the beginning, that she was shareable. He said that before. He said it again. He said it at Destiny's run that, she was shareable, that he had learned that from Martell. What has Marcel said about Ariane? No, he said, Martell says that Marcel does get this to get a reaction out of me. So he is very much aware that Marcel is the instigator, right? So if he knows, if you're aggravating him and he knows you're aggravated, Marcel is just going to keep pushing the button to keep aggravating you. Martel in the confessional says that the thing about the 20 women said, let's say, I'm sorry, he said he and Marcel has been getting into it over the years. The only thing that he could think of was about the 20 women. And he said he did the 20 women comment, and he said he did apologize about it. And he said that was about 4 or 5 years ago. So he should be past that. But how can you tell someone what they should get past or when they should get past it, especially when the wrong was done to them? And I really feel like that's where Martell has the disconnect. He does not connect with the very fact of he has mistreated someone, and he's not zeroing in on that. Instead, he's zeroing in on the reaction to what he and his wife, he and his fiance, I think is what they called her later on in the episode, but what he and Ariane have done to Marcel. They're zeroing in on that, the reaction, but never what they did to cause the reaction. Chris said, do you think there's anything you can do to stop that? Martell said he thinks it is within him. Talk about within Marcel. It's whatever it is going to stop it is within Marcel. And I thought that was stupid. Chris said, does that cause a problem with you and Maurice? Because he and Maurice are friends. And Martell says that, he and Maurice play football at A&M together. Good evening, bad girl Riri. Thanks for joining. And did I say good evening to Gail Francis? I hope I did. But good evening, Gail Francis again. He said they played football at A&M together. So they had already built up a relationship. And Martell said he feels like a lot of time Maurice treats him like he's a brother. But I'm going to tell you this, you keep going against his brother and you're going to see that change, because blood is always thicker than water. They don't have the type of relationship where they won't ever be friends. But you keep going up against Marcel and you see how long Maurice is going to continue to do that. Because I'm going to tell you that blood, it sometimes is thicker than water. It's always thicker than water, but we know that that tide is going to turn. He's going to keep treating you like a brother, you mistreating his brother. Chris says, he said, Martell says that he got a call from Maurice to talk, just he and Marcel, which I think is great. Both of them sit down and talk together. He says again that Marcel has lied about everything. Don't say nothing about Ariane. That is my woman. That's how they ended that scene. Child, ain't nobody trying to talk about you and your woman at all. Not to mention him and his ex continue to go after the Scott's marriage the entire time. And that's what I even said when they played so they went through in the scene with the last scene, which is Marcel and Martell meeting up at the cigar lounge or the cigar bar. And the one thing I said was they played where Marcel says, one thing I learned from Martell was, not to be able to shareable, I believe is how he put it. But in the same instance, why didn't they show what caused Marcel to say that? Marcel didn't just say that out of the thin air, just, today I'm going to go to this meeting, I'm going to interrupt the meeting. There had already been some issues going on, and then Martell and Ariane had been talking about him. So he was responding again. But we didn't get that because it was, I don't think they're trying to bring in so much of the social media world on this season, but definitely he forgets how they have gone in on the Scott's marriage. Not just him and Ariane, him and Melody as well. Remember, Team Hope, but we're going to get to the Team Hope crap. And I wanted to do it today, but time did not permit me to do it. I've been, again, I have a life. I want to go through and just kind of remind us of some of the things that Martell, Melody have done to the Scotts that have gotten them to where they are exactly right now. What some of the things that they've done. Remember the Team Hope that they did? They did where the 47 acres was an issue. The combat group was an issue. There was always some type of issue. And then we're not even going to mention the very fact that Melanie had Tisha escorted out of her event. We're not even going to talk about that, right? So there has been things done to the Scotts that people need to actually apologize for. The sitting down at the table Now, don't, baby. No, ma'am. Don't. You better get you a nun, Martell Holt. That's for sure. But the sitting down at the table. Hey, Queen Script. Thanks for joining. Um, the sitting down at the table when Letitia Scott said, "I'll show you a picture of that BMW." Was the very fact that Mel had said just moments earlier, not even moments, seconds earlier, what you need to do is get your kids, put them in the back of that car, and ride down there to the club at night at what she said, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and see what Marsal is doing. That's what she said, implying that Marsal was down there cheating. She would never say to Letitia's face, Marsal is at the club at night cheating. She never said that. What she said was, you need to get in your car, pack your kids up, and y'all need to go down there to the club, and you may be able to see what's going on. I'm not going to tell you nothing. And that's when Letitia came back, responded with, you want me to show you a picture of that BMW? But no one hears that. All they heard was, oh, she wanted to throw up that BMW in her face. And what was Mel doing? Nothing. Well, she was being a good church girl. She was holding her personal lap and just sitting there taking all that drama. Girl, miss me with that. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. All right. Moving forward. Those were Mel's words to Letitia. Exactly. Those were her exact words. Was you get them kids in the car, you roll on down there to the club, and you see what Marsal is doing at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And that was only from Letitia asking. She said, you keep implying that my husband's cheating. You keep implying. What do you know? Tell me what you know. And that's when she told her that. So in turn, the response from Letitia was, I guess Letitia was supposed to sit there with her person and just say, okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But instead, Letitia came back with that wit and was like, do I need to show you a picture of that BMW? Because I know that BMW stings me. What you saying ain't no proof behind. But that BMW is something that really bothers you because you know there's a BMW riding around on the streets with the back of it, the license plate that say Arion. And if y'all want to see the picture, I got a picture of the BMW. The license plate say Arion on it. Yeah, it's a BMW rolling around. In fact, while we talking out, see if I can scroll up and find that BMW in my thing, because she don't have it no more, so it don't matter. There won't be any kind of doxing when the vehicle is not around any longer. But yeah, you have someone that is constantly trying to belittle you, and you're just supposed to sit there, I guess, and take it. That's not how life works. That's not how that works. That's not how any of this works at all. Give me 1 second, you guys. Let me move this over to my photos so I can share it. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. You know what the old lady said on that commercial? That's not how any of this works. But we don't want to talk about that. We want to always remind Letitia of what she said, not about what was said previously. Am I right or wrong? We don't want to talk about that. But here's that BMW. And then there's a baby BMW on the side of it. Y'all see the BMW? All right, let's remove the BMW. Child, they've been messing with the Scots for a long time. Now that the Scots are fighting back with words and giving you what you've been given, it's they're doing too much. We can't take this. This is a tragedy. What are they doing? Shut the presses. Close the doors. What is happening here? Scotty calls her saints and sinners. Who's he called saints and sinners? I didn't get that. Mel told Tisha about the BMW. That's how Tisha. Exactly. That's exactly how she knew about it. But she told her about all the stuff, and then they swore them not to talk about it. Then the first episode, they talk, girl, move, get on away from us. Exactly. Little do she remember. But that's the thing. While Martell is up here, I've been a good friend to you. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. But you forgot what you've done to Marsal. You forgot. And I'm telling you, what I've seen from them is only responding to crap that they've been putting out here on social media. That includes him, that includes Melanie, and that includes Ariane. He has been responding. The Scots have been responding, and they have been responding for years. And if you think that someone is just going to lay down and let you run over them, you are sadly mistaken. That is not what we do in America. That's just not what happens. He calls Mel saints and sinner, baby. I don't know what she is. Troublemaker, delusional, weird. I don't know. We could put her in a bunch of categories, right? We do know she left the show, but when she left the show, she left her broken pieces behind because remember, she set the stage. This is season number 10. For 9 seasons, we have talked about Mel and Martell, right? For at least 7 of those seasons, we've talked about Mel and Martell divorce. And we have been talking about this is the first season we're getting some real content that does not include Mel in the comment section. Lady Rowe, you lying. You can put that in the comment section. Lady Rowe, you are lying. This right here, this is the BMW. You want to see a picture of the BMW? There go the BMW, right? And that's what she said. If you want me to show you that BMW, I can show you that. This is the BMW. This is the BMW that Martell bought for Miss Ariane Curry. That's it. But you came through with no proof, just allegations, speculations. Get your kids in the car. You roll down there to the clinic, and she said, "Well, let me just show you a picture of what that BMW looked like." How unfair is that? How fair is that? When you could have had, as a woman-to-woman conversation, but there was always some animosity there with Letitia, and you cannot tell me what Tisha did to Mel to actually upset her. What was it? The fact that her and her husband agreed she would stay at home. They still got a seat at the table that you really didn't want them to sit at. Let's talk about that. You really didn't want them to be on the show, and they got a seat at the table that you really didn't want them to be on. And yet they stayed together. They made it work. Whatever they went through, they made it work. Even though people wanted them to break up. People calling Tisha stupid for staying with her husband. Girl, nobody called you stupid for staying with Uncle Bobo, who been sleeping with the lady around the corner for the last 25 years. He got a whole nother family around. No one called y'all stupid, but you got on this TV and be calling this lady stupid with zero proof. Whether or not he slept with someone else or not, there's zero proof out there that Marcel has had an affair. There's zero proof. So at this point, if you come up with some proof, who cares? At this point, no one cares. But let's not forget the stuff that you've done to this man and this woman, and you did not expect them to retaliate. They were just supposed to stay there and take it because you considered yourself better than them. Let's be honest. I just rewatched the first episode. Mel and Tel said they were the model couple. Exactly. They did. Remember, they had been chosen as Powerhouse Couple of the Year, I believe, for Alabama. When the season the first season, and she's mad at him because on the way there, Ariane calls his phone. Remember that episode? That is the crux of their anger, how it started and how it's going. Exactly. They forget the beginning, right? So if you're constantly digging at me, I have an opportunity and I have a right to come back and say that isn't true. And you did this. Okay, since I've told you that isn't true and you continue to dig, well, let me throw some of your stuff out here because you got a lot of dirt that you've been keeping in the back, right? And I think that's just where they are as a group. As friends. And I do believe Marcel, I ain't your friend, bro. And he said, I ain't your effing friend. I ain't your bro. We ain't there no more. We might have been, but we're gonna talk about that later on. Scene number 2 was Will and Ken. Child, I don't really know about this guy, Will. I'm not really sure what exactly Ken, not Will, but Ken. Not really sure what exactly Ken is expecting to gain from this relationship. I think he answered his own questions. Maybe not realizing he did, but he did. Will and Ken at Ken's home, Ken and Trisha's home. Ken said he called Will over because he has good insight. And I do believe Will has good insight. Ken is having relationship issues, and I put again. Ken says Trisha has an issue while he was working. She had an issue while he was out working out with his friends in the garage, which I guess they've converted into a gym, a home gym. I'm not really sure if people come over and work out, but he said they have a podcast. Hey, Sibo, thanks for joining. He said they have a podcast, and I actually one day last week, I think we talked about the podcast. In fact, it was one day last week we talked about the podcast that he and Will have called the what is the name of it? Two Wicked Podcast, I believe is what it's called. Two Wicked Podcast. Will owns Two Wicked Barbershop, which has a lounge inside there's a barbershop on one side, lounge on one side, where they play pool and different things. Um, he says that he tells Will that they had a disagreement, and I put it sounds manufactured to me, but hey, let's go with it. Ken says that he and the guys were filming a segment for their podcast, and Trisha comes walking through, and it shows a video of her. It looks like a home video from someone's camera. Her walking through. She has a backpack on her shoulder, a bag of some sort on her shoulder, and she's walking through. And he says, "Hey, I know you ain't leaving without kissing me." Ken says that to Trisha. And Ken says, she kept walking. So he said it made it uncomfortable for he and his friends to continue to work out or whatever. It was just a heaviness in the room, yada, 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 yada. And Ken said he's always defending Trisha while she is always embarrassing him. Ken says if they keep coming to this, they must either find a solution or get out of this situation because they can't find a solution. Ken said that fight that they had was the last straw, and I call cap. I call cap on that, baby. Will said it's past time. So I put in my comments, quotation, battery in the back. And I'm not sure if Ken is intentionally putting a battery in the back, but we know when the guys got together, they all said that they felt like Ken could do better. Marceau said it was time for him to get back out on the field to find him someone else. Will says, but y'all have a lot together. Y'all have this home, y'all have stuff. And Ken says he's reached out to a couple of realtors. So I guess Ken is ready to move on. Will says already. Ken says he's ex-military. He doesn't know if that's what causes him to be brash or to have the issues or the way he treats things. And Ken said, I'm treating you like you're my wife and you are someone else's wife. I am treating Ken. Listen to this. Ken, I want you to put your ear right here. I am treating you like you're my wife and you are someone else's wife. She's someone else's wife, Ken. She's not your wife. She actually is married to a guy by the name of Marquez. That is her husband, right? So I don't know what you thought. I mean, every time you get mad at her, is that what you throw up? You're someone else's wife. Why are you there, Ken? I wouldn't be with someone else's wife if I need to, or someone else's husband. If I need to throw that up in their face all the time. You made a conscious decision to be with her. You knew she had these children, but it is what it is. He says, I'm giving you preferential treatment. Ken said when he leaves there, the things will be separated. He said, like any relationships, when it dissolves, the assets are divided, is what he says. Ken is repeating what the guys have been saying to him, is what I put in my comment. Is this from peer pressure? Are you doing this because you sat down with the guys and the guys pretty much called you stupid? There's no other way to say it. The guys pretty much said you're being used, you're not making sound judgment, all of that. During Ken talking about all of the reasons why he should leave, he mentions 10 reasons why he wants to stay. Right? He says, I should leave because she is not healed. But I love the children and I'm good to her and I do X, Y. He gives you all these other reasons why he should still be there. And I said in my comment, his love comes with conditions. And you can tell. Ken is one of those people that do things and then he throws it in your face. And I really thought I was giving Ken a chance because I thought I liked, the what he brought to the show or brought to Trisha. But I think this kind of sealed my attitude towards him to see him a little differently. We all know that they are still together because we just saw them on the Instagram, him pumping her up with his legs. And Ken said that Trisha needed therapy because she needed to heal. And I put, Ken, you need therapy as well. It's just not her. You need some therapy as well, buddy. Next episode was these two going to get their feet done. I thought this was the cutest episode, the cutest scene rather. Marcel and Macy go to Lush Nail Bar. Macy said she is cold, and Marcel says, he said, you cold? He said, I got you. And she responds, oh, stop. And I said, such a typical young teenager. Those 13-year-olds, boy, they something else. They're trying to find their independence. I remember when I was 13 or 14 and I start fiddling around in makeup and start That's when you really think you're trying to really find who you are, right? That's middle school. You digging around, you trying to put items to clothing together that you think match because you want to be with the hip kid. And when she was talking, it just resonated with me. I actually went back to my 13, 14-year-old age and thinking about how I was with my mom around that age and my dad. And, of course, I thought they knew nothing. Oh, these weirdos. They don't know a thing. These old people. I thought I knew everything. It wasn't until I got older I realized I should have stayed in the child's place. Maybe I would have stayed at home. I wouldn't have left till I had to leave. But yes, you don't remember that or even understand that until you become an adult. Marcel says it's important that he spends time with his children, and I'm here for it. I definitely am here for him spending all parents spending time with the children. Your children need that time, whatever it may be, whatever it may look like. If that's going to the nail shop, if that's going out to dinner, if that's going to the amusement park, if that's just going for a walk in the park, having that relationship, that conversation is so important, even if sometimes it's just the conversation in the cars, asking, especially for a father with their daughter, having those conversations to me is amazing. I'm a daddy's girl. I am a daddy's girl. I lost my dad super young. I was 23 and I was born on my daddy's birthday, but I was that girl that rode on her daddy's neck till she was a teenager. Like, he would put me on the shoulders and I would be hanging on to him. And I remember the conversation, sitting down, talking to him, and just some great times. And I really think, and I tell people this all the time, I didn't really need a man to love me because I knew what love from a man looked like because my dad loved me. He told me he loved me. He treated me. He used to tell me I was the prettiest girl in the world. No one could change that because my daddy told me that. I don't care what you say, because my daddy told me I was, and I told everybody that. People like, oh, you ugly. Well, that ain't what my daddy said. And that's the only man that mattered to me at that time as a young girl. So I really, when I tell you I enjoyed this scene, I enjoyed it. Macy is trying to get Marcel to get his nails pink and sparkly, and he was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. They go into the confessional with Marcel and Macy, and Marcel says he would love to paint his nails pink, but he's her father and not her mother. And Macy responds, are you trying to say mom is below you or something? I thought that was cute. And then she says, is that sexism? Marcel asked Macy about the time he painted her nails. And she said, like, fourth grade when I went to the fourth grade dance. And she looks like she's disgusted. But of course, that's what teenagers do. Um, he said, yeah, he said, I thought I did a good job. She was like, I was in fourth grade, I was 7 years old. Like, did you expect me to think differently? And then they played Never Have I Ever. I thought that was hilarious. And he said, if you ever hugged your significant other, take a drink. And he takes a drink. Macy picks that drink up to her mouth. And he says, if you've ever kissed your significant other, take a drink. And he takes, and she does the exact same thing. And I thought, what is he going to say next? But he was very understanding. He really talked to her in a loving, understanding manner. I will say that about him. Marcel talks to Macy about dating, and that was really open, a very open, candid conversation. As open as you want to get with your child on a TV or in front of a camera. And I'm sure they talk about this at home, but it was probably something that they've explored that they thought they would bring to the camera. And I thought it was a beautiful scene. Macy says she and Byron have been dating for 6 months. Macy said Marcel is a 6 or 7 in the rating, because she asked me, like, on the scale of 1 to 10, what is my first? She started at 9, 8 or 9, then she went to 6 or 7. And he goes, what about mom? What is mom's rating? And she said mom's a 10 on the scale of good mommies. And Marcel said, I'm really glad to hear that. He said, she said, if we were all parts of the house, mom would be like the foundation. Y'all, when I tell you, that was amazing to hear. Mom would be like the foundation, because you have to have, for a home to be cohesive and run smoothly, there has to be a solid foundation. And she said mom would be like the foundation. Marcel says that Macy is an awesome daughter. And Marcia said, no matter where she goes, she can call him. And I put, that's what a good daddy does. Watching them hold hands while they got their feet done was so beautiful. Macy has Marcel's personality. She has that charisma, that spunk, that sarcasm. Macy has, she has all of those values instilled in her. I heard the sarcasm, just like he's sarcastic, she's just as sarcastic. And I thought that was probably one of the best scenes that Love and Marriage has given us in a very long time. I really enjoyed the scene. Yes, Symmetry. It was a very good scene. Living for Me, it was a great scene. This was so sweet. Love the scene. Exactly, Queen Script. Hey, Annette Johnson, thanks for joining. You love that too, Symmetry. Oh my goodness, that was an excellent scene. When they were holding hands while they were getting their feet done, y'all, I was sitting there like, oh my goodness, I don't want to cry, but it was such a beautiful scene, y'all. I'm telling you, it was a beautiful scene. Them sitting there just talking, because you want your little girls to have those type of relationships with their father. And I'm here for it. I'm here for the good stuff, because we need to know there are positive role models out here in the world that these young ladies, these young men can have. We do know that when we talked to MJ earlier in the year, he said that daddy was his pillar, right? That the daddy, you know what a pillar is? That pillar is, if you have a home, a pillar is the like a beam that holds the house up, and you can lean on a pillar and you don't usually fall, right? So knowing that his father is like his post that he can lean on, and his dad will hold him up. I found this ex. We know that the Scotts are doing something good with raising these three kids. Marcel even mentioned that he was thankful to have three honor roll student children. And he was very appreciative, and he owed a lot of that to his wife. He even praised Tisha. He talked about, yeah, she said she can't wait to hear Tisha exactly, because we're gonna give her the questions on Tuesday about it. He mentioned how that Tisha was working and she wanted to stay home to raise the children. And of course, I've talked about that too, them both agreeing that she would stay home and raise the children. Whatever that looked like for them, they agreed. And her stay home to raise the children looks like something that is going to pay off in the long run, just by gauging it. Of course, Tisha trying to get up there to Auburn and live with with MJ, but I believe that they really have done a good job with their children. The next scene is Destiny, Trisha, and Sharon. This scene, y'all, I don't even know what to say about this. I want to say yada yada yada, but it was more than a yada yada yada. Trish, Destiny, and Sharon meet up at Emily's Wine Bar and Bistro. Destiny said she missed Trisha's birthday party, but we all saw pictures of Destiny at the party. She just wasn't filmed. So I'm not sure if Destiny came in late and she missed the filming, or because we do know that was the day, I think, of her very first TikTok live. So I'm not sure what all entailed, but um we do know that she was at the party, but she was not filmed. So for whatever reason, she probably came in late. It wasn't filmed, but she did make it to the party. They just didn't film it. Queen Script, I want to highlight what you said. You said it appears that was a great decision. It was. It was a great decision to have Letitia stay at home, be a stay-at-home mom, and instill some values into her children. She was late dudes. Exactly. That's what I think, Symmetry. And I believe she's spoken on that before. So this was a scene. Remember, this is TV. It's not scripted, it's reality, but the cameras are only there for so long because I'm sure they wanted to party and be able to play their music, and they can't record those music scenes. They have to either block it out, and it really goes to a lot of editing to block out the music out of the sound, because you have to have people mic'd up. You have to make sure you're getting, it's a lot of work. So I'm sure that is what it was. Is it just me? But I need that third wheel going. I agree with you. And I agree with you. We here living for me. I totally agree that something needs to happen. Destiny says she has an independent movie role. and she needs to learn how to box. So she asked Trisha if she knew, and Trisha said yeah. And she said, "Will you teach me?" And she said yeah. They started to discuss Ken and Trisha's relationship. Um, I don't know how that started. Did Trisha mention it? I guess she mentioned it, or no? I take that back. Sharon mentioned it, I believe. I think that's how it started. I'm not sure. They started to discuss Ken and Latricia's relationship. Trisha says she and Ken are taking a break. And Destiny says, so he moved out. And Trisha said no. But I heard someone say he's living with Will. Did y'all hear that? So was that Sharon that said that? It just seemed like it fell out of the sky because I don't think they were looking at anybody's face. I rewinded a couple of times to see if I could see who said it, but I think it came from Sharon that he was living with Will. Destiny said she isn't surprised that they're taking a break, but she isn't sure if she will get the truth from Trisha. And then they show a montage of Trisha and her lies that she told about Martell. I mean, they played what she said to this one. They just went around the room playing all of them. Trisha and Ken got into it, and Ken wanted her to give. He said, "Give back my stuff." And Xavier came downstairs and threw the keys to his car on the counter. Trisha didn't say he threw the keys to his car on the counter. She said he threw he threw the keys on the counter as though he just brought some random keys downstairs. It wasn't until Destiny cleared it up and said he brought the keys to his car and put them on the counter. And she said, yeah. And I don't know if Latricia even hears what's going on. Is she a Martell? Maybe her and Martell have more in common than we actually think. Oh, I'm oily. Because is she oblivious to knowing what's going on with her kid? Okay, moving right along. She said, when my son feels a type of way, I feel a type of way. Destiny says, you and Ken are in a relationship, not you, Ken, and the kids. Xavier is going to leave soon because he's a young man. That's what Sharon says. Destiny says she don't like it when Ken gets mad at Trisha and where he goes when he gets mad. But she's seen Ken be really loving to Trisha, and he really cares about the kids like they're his own. Then Sharon says she feels like Ken doesn't feel validated. Trisha says sometimes she has her moments and she takes it out on whoever she's around. Whoever's around her, she just takes it out on them. And she said with Ken hiding aggression and her damaged, it automatically puts her on the fence. And I can understand that. And I think that because she's so guarded, she does not realize the damage or the harm that her behavior even causes her children. And the sad part is that because of this may be something they carry throughout life. This may damage them in relationships because of what they're watching their mom not be healed from the tragic or unexpected unalive or the deaths of her parents, the death of her sister, all of that actually matters, right? And you have to do the work and go to therapists and do the healing. And I just really feel like her arguments with Ken are so explosive because she's probably up and down and all around because she has a lot of emotions that she has not dealt with. Destiny says it is because that is what you're used to. You're bringing something that didn't serve you well in your past relationships into your new one. And Sharon says she needs to see her fight. And I put, girl, shut up. Shut up. You want to see her fight for what? What do you want? She's fighting. That's the problem. She's fighting for her life. So you really want to see her go get some therapy and get better. You don't want to see her fight because she's fighting. She's fighting, and she probably feels like she's drowning because she has not been able to deal with those things that she needs to address in her life so that she can move forward. Hey, Sergeant Charge. And I put, girl, shut up. Who are you? Who are you? Let's go. Let's see what y'all said about this scene. Based on Marquette's social media, I better not catch you spending the night. I feel like there's some legal stuff going on and Ken had to move out, which is a big possibility, Symmetry. Because we know that this conversation or this storyline of them working out and Latricia getting mad and just walking through with a backpack. It just doesn't make sense. You ain't gonna leave her without kissing me. And this started an argument. It doesn't make sense to me. To me, it's same manufactured as I put in my notes. And that is what I heard, Symmetry, that Ken had to move out based on court papers. Okay. Heard, I heard. Gotcha. I believe it's possible in it. Sorry. Hello, Sergeant Charge. Yeah, so I really feel like that may be a fact. That just may be a fact that he had to move out because of court paperwork. But why not say that? I don't know. Wouldn't I don't think they have it sealed where they can't talk about their ongoing divorce unless they just don't want to talk about it, or maybe they're trying to save face. I don't know. But I will say this: it don't make a lot of sense, and that's just the God honest truth. The last scene of this episode was Martell and Marsau meeting up at Leaf Cigar and Bar. I thought that this meetup was. It was. I don't even know what to say. I think it was a waste of time. I'll just say that. I think it was a waste of time. I think that until Marceau and Martell can see the damage he's created, there won't be any resolution. He wants resolution from Marceau, but he's not willing to address what he's done to damage their friendship. And until he does that, Marceau is not going to budge. He's not. He's stubborn, and he's going to stay on that wall until Martell does what he needs to do. So Martell says he's meeting up to resolve all of this, and he thinks Marceau should be honest with himself, and then he will be honest with Martell. And I put, Ninja, who are you? Ugh, who are you? You want him to be honest about what? The same thing he keeps telling you over and over and over. He keeps telling you the same thing. Nothing's changing. He keeps telling you the same thing over and over. Marceau says, then, they pan over to Marceau. Marceau says he would love to say that he's nervous, but he isn't. And he's smoking a cigar. And I think, babe, when I tell you, I bet he's a good poker player because he was smoking that cigar. He ain't even thinking about what Martell talking about. Puff, 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 puff. He's not thinking about nothing Martell's talking about. He said, he said, I would like to say that I'm nervous, but I'm not. He said, blame shifting and lots of pointing, saying that here's the cause of it, par for the course, and doing this. He said, I'm only doing this out of courtesy for Reese. So Marceau only decided to go because of his big brother. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have went. Martell says he's trying to get past this. When he sit down, he starts just out the bat. I'm trying to get past this. And like the tape that he put out, did you put out? You know what I'm saying? He said, the comments that you made, the comments that teachers made, we need to figure out how that disrespect will no longer occur. So hey, Kishara, so we're only going to talk about what Marceau has done. We're just going to talk about the response. We're not going to talk about the actual action that warranted that response. Yeah, move on. He thinks back. He said, think back to Martell when Martell was your friend. When we was cool. When we used to get together, rent limousines, and go everywhere like together. You know what I'm saying? I really want you to think back to those days. And I put in quotations, why those days? Why those days? What about those days that are so pertinent that he needs to think back when you've been coming and presenting yourself as a friend the way you have been presenting yourself for the last few years. But let's move on with that. Marceau said, I want to make sure we are painting the picture right. This is what Marceau says. Come on, baby, get your easel and your paintbrush and let's get to painting. Marceau says, I know that Martell was a great friend for about 4 years. 4 years. He says, I know the Martell who says all these things about me. He does all these lies and says all kinds of stuff about me for the past 7 years. He said, Marceau said that he isn't going to say that Martell wasn't a friend and we weren't on a certain level. When Martell thought that Marceau was in a bad position, he reached out his hand to help him. He said, but Marceau said he won't forget the moment he won't forget that moment because it was love. He felt like the very fact that he was down bad, because we know Marcel was working at the movie theater. Apparently, he lost his job there, and he and Marcel started Sculpt, right? But yet they did own property. That's not a non-factor. That is a fact. We knew back in season 1, episodes, I don't remember what episode it was, they told us they owned a set of apartments. I don't know how many other properties, but they own property. And I will tell you this, when you have property that is mortgaged, you have to pay mortgage on it, right? So if I'm collecting rent and I'm paying mortgage, and I may get, out of each apartment, $100 to $200 over what the mortgage is for each, because you can base your stuff on those units. I may just be bringing home enough to barely keep my head above water. Not, people think just because you own assets that you out here living large. That's not always the case. If you own a property and you're paying a mortgage and you're getting rent, you may just be living off of what is left over out of that rent, which may be $300 or $400. You never know. We don't know at that tale, but we do know that there was a time that Martell stepped up and said, hey, let's go into business together. You have this knowledge, I have this knowledge. What I know, I'll teach you. What you know, you'll teach me, and let's start this business. As it was, Scope was not making any profit. Letitia came along and she bought Martell out of the business. That much we do know to be a fact. Moving right along. Yet after that, Marcel became a punching bag, and Martell started taking shots at him. I want y'all to really, exactly, Queen Script. 25% minimum goes to maintenance and overhead. You will not believe, I own property, so that I can speak on this one with the know-how. I had a piece of property that stayed vacant from October one year until July of the next year. That's a lot of revenue lost, right? And in that time, I remodeled out of my pockets. Remodeled. Means taking off floors, put new flooring down. I gutted out bathrooms, put new it takes money, because you gotta, if you want to keep the money coming in, you gotta put some money out. So just imagine paying a mortgage every month, no revenue coming in, and remodeling, and doing a good remodeling, not a cheap remodeling job, putting porcelain on walls, new tubs, new shower heads. That costs money. I'm telling you, being a landlord is not for the faint of heart. You got to be really willing to do some stuff. Be honest with you. He said, yet you thought Marcel was a punching bag, and Martell started taking shots. Martell is oblivious to the fact that of what has been happening for the past 7 years. I think Martell really thinks that he hasn't done anything, right? That everything that has happened is Marcel's fault. He does not see anything that he's done. He doesn't see the very fact that he and Mel went around mistreating Marcel and Tisha. And I'm gonna tell you what, nobody may not own up to this, but I'm gonna say it right here, right now. They thought they were better than the rest of this crew, right? When they went to when they pitched the show to Carlos King, they pitched a show about the hosts. No host barred, I believe, was it going to be, and they were going to talk about property preservation. But Carlos said he didn't know anything about that. But what he did know about was reality TV that included, couples and ensemble cast. So he asked them to bring people. The first group of people they bought, Carlos didn't like them. But when they brought the Scotts, they liked the Scotts. We have to remember that the hosts thought they were up here, right? And then they brought in these people, and then you got these people on these social media apps saying, "Oh, you should be thankful they gave you a job. Y'all should be kissing Mel's feet." Kissing who feet? And then Tisha said, "We told them thank you." At the end of the day, Martell is the one who pitched the show to Carlos, and it was years that went by before it was actually picked up, right? Although the show he pitched was never even one that Carlos even used. He started a whole different show, but they don't want to talk about that. That's a whole different conversation for a whole nother day. But you expect these people to be beneath these two people. And the very fact that these two have stuck together, they've done this and they've done that, and they're coming out on top. It bothers people. It aggravates people. It stirs up the demon in people who still want to believe in the merit factor, in the very fact that you're here and you're here. You'll never be up here. So much is so, Mel and Martell were married. I just want people to think. Mel and Martell were married. They were husband, they were wife, right? When they divorced, whatever they had when they were married was together. It was theirs, right? We saw them sit down at the table and what about so and so? We're gonna dissolve it. Y'all remember that episode? We're gonna dissolve it. She's checking on a piece of paper, just drawing on paper, because we know now that she didn't dissolve nothing. There's a lot of stuff that is still on the books in Alabama that has Martell name on it. That she's property preservation. Martell Hope director. If you think I'm lying, Google it. Anywho, the property preservation was something that Martell had. It was what he used under his lawn care business. If you think I'm lying, Google it. Martell was doing allegedly. Martell had these businesses. They were working together. They were a couple. Now, when you're married, things become joint, right? What you got, I got. So there's no way he produced more episodes than she produced. I just want you to think a little bit, people. I'm just trying to stir up some brain cells that start working. Like I'm trying to crank it up. I'm turning the key. Please let your starter work and the battery kick in and put some gasoline in this car and let's get the motor running. Okay, so you have two people that were married. What they had was joint. We own property together. We have X amount of money. We do know that Mel took a whole lot of money out the counter, did not divide it with Martell. If I'm lying, she told it on the TV. But when Martell took out, what was it, $17,000 or 70, I don't know what the number was, she wanted it divided, but she had taken out 100-something thousand and then divided. We all know that when you file bankruptcy, all of your assets are frozen. Credit cards, frozen. Everything, frozen. Your cars, if you don't have certain things in place, they will come repossess your car. They just will. They had closed a lot of their businesses together. Although Mel kept the builder's license, Martell was the builder. I just want y'all to think a little bit. Think about it. And I'm not defending Martell. I'm not defending Mel. I'm just giving you some reality checks. So you got two people, they both filed bankruptcy. So bankruptcy gives you an opportunity to restructure, restart, get a new life, right? So they were in a lot of debt. They was in a crap load of debt by the millions. So there's no way you could believe that she came a millionaire and he didn't. You cannot tell me that she came out of the divorce a millionaire and he didn't come out of the divorce a millionaire. That's just common sense. And y'all tell me if y'all think I'm lying. There's no way you can tell me two people who are married with joint accounts go into a bankruptcy together and one comes out a millionaire and the other one does not. And they share joint custody of their children. There's no child support. Guess what? One is not going to be richer than the other. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. Every time you replay those old videos, Martell is a producer on multiple episodes of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Every time you play those, he gets a royalty check, right? I'm telling you, the one she plays, the one that she's producer on, she gets a royalty check. So you tell me that this young man who is getting royalty checks is broke. He's just a bum. He don't have no money. You can't make me believe that. You have to be realistic in what you do. Just because I go put on some clothes, walk around with a Louis Vuitton purse or some Chanel or some Gucci does not mean I'm rich. Just because I drive a G-Wagon. I know a dude live in an apartment, drive a G-Wagon. That doesn't mean anything. So, you can always look rich. People got mad. Started picking at Martell. Oh, he couldn't even get a car in his name. Neither could Mel. We found that out when Destiny had to go rent her car because her Land Rover wasn't running. Anybody remember that? Or am I the only one oblivious to life around here? So you tell me how these people who were supposed to be way up here and the Scots were supposed to be way down here, but they stuck together and kept working and they kept working. And while the Team Hope was crumbling down, they was moving up and they got into a position that they were pissed off about. That's the way I see it. I don't know if anybody else see it like I see it, but that's how I see it. I see a group of people who thought they were the power couple of the year. We way up here and the Scots are down here, but we're going to get a divorce because this man can't stop cheating on me. He out here, he just a bum. This ain't the only woman he done cheated on me. And these people, they sticking together. And guess what they doing? They elevating. They moving on up and we falling down. We falling down while they going up. And Marcel even told Mel, you throwing things allegedly at the wall, trying to see what sticks. Trying to see what sticks. But these people were never supposed to be with the Scots were never supposed to outdo the host. The Scots were never supposed to be anything other than the minions. See what I'm saying? That's all I'm trying to do. Just trying to get you guys to just think a little bit. I ain't saying like to go crazy. I just want y'all to think a little bit about how people go through life pretending. There's a lot of pretending going on right here on the YouTubes, on the Facebook, on the Instagram. People go through life pretending, lying, and pretending. Not using no allegedly, because I know a lot of these liars, but these lies be facts. Right now, when it comes down to them, I don't know what their bank accounts look like. I do not. I don't know. I do not know what Mel's bank account looks like. I don't know what Martell's bank account look like. But what I'm telling you, it is insanity to believe that two people with the same amount of money go through bankruptcy, go through a divorce, go through bankruptcy, and one comes out of bankruptcy a millionaire, and the other one comes out broke. That's insane. They don't even make logical sense. If you could just add 2 and 2 together, you should equal 4. Now, she a millionaire, he got to be a millionaire. Because once you get through paying off your debts or settling with your debtors, guess what they do? The trustees release your money. And if you know anything, I've never filed bankruptcy, but I read all the paperwork about it. Once you get through, they get through paying off your debtors. The trustees go through, they make sure you don't owe the IRS. They make sure that everything is settled and taken care of, right? You pay them a certain amount of money, but they freeze all of your assets during the time that they're doing all of that, right? So once they release your assets to you, which may be 4, 5, 6 years, then you can move on with your life. But for a while, it's going to be a little tough. And I think what we saw from Martell was him showing us reality. It was a little tough for him. Where Mel, she was going through trying to still put up this facade like she was still rich. And where was she getting so much money from? She had filed bankruptcy too. Think, people, I just want y'all to think. Is it because she took that $100,000 or something from Martell? Is that why? Because she took that $70,000 that she wanted him to split in half when she was pouring all that lighter fluid all over his house with the flicker? She was gonna set it afire. She was gonna become a pirate. Is that what we're talking about? Anyway, let me move right along. Let me see what y'all talking about. I'm gonna see what y'all talking about if I can get my mouse to roll. You said the Scots are the real reason people don't want to admit it. Did I miss something? Oh, here we go. Martell had been mad because Tisha would not let him back. Exactly. He wanted to get back in school because he could not get his builder's license. We know that he had taken the test and wasn't passing it. He wanted to get back into it. And she said no. But even prior to that, they had been going after him. But I really believe because when Marcel was down bad, he felt like he helped him start Scope, that he would have helped him because he was down bad. And I'm not saying yes or no, but I understand why Tisha said no. I do understand why she said no. Not saying that she should have. Sometimes you have to help your fellow man, but I understand why she said no because of all of the things that have been done to them. So it's understandable. I agree with you 100%. They did not think they were better than the other couples. Exactly. They did. I'm sorry. They did think they were better than the other couple. Queen Script Symmetry. That's why he attacked her. Exactly. That's exactly why. And that's why I said, if we could just put that kid in there and crank it up a little bit and just have a little common sense about you. Even when you listen to these people commentate on this here app, just have a little common sense about you. You cannot think that these people were moving and shaking like they were, filed bankruptcy, and somehow or another they are still up here and the Scots are down here. Because eventually, guess what? Because we've all heard them say that Carlos pays them well because they are the number one show on OWN. So they've been slowly inching up because they stuck together. Their businesses started flourishing. We've heard people talk about the lawsuits that the Scots have been involved in, but nobody talked about it when they won those lawsuits. No one. Girl, the Scots are the real reason people don't want it. Exactly, they are. Hey, Queen's Girl. Martell has connected. He does have a lot of connections, and his connections is what got them on the show to begin with. We know that Martell had connections. He was when the group was moving and shaking, the combat group, he was a lot of the connections that they were using. Even Mel said, "Oh, you're using my connections." Those connections were really Martell's connections because he knew a lot of people. He was born and raised in Huntsville. He had been out there building those houses, so he had a lot of connections there. Hence the rental car issue. That's exactly what I'm hitting on. Exactly. She needed Destiny too. Right. Although we want to believe that she went over and wrote Destiny's big check. Oh, let me write you a check, girl, and sign my name. I'm gonna do a Donald Trump on you, allegedly. Because she needed me. But you needed her too. Y'all was good friends, but you destroyed that. Just like Martell is destroying his relationship with Marsau. Hell, I can look rich. Sergeant Charge, you hear me? We all can. I got 2 cars outside to make me look real rich. Make me look real rich, but child, I be over just trying to survive. Atlanta is it fake it till you make it. Second city. You know what I've heard? I've heard that Queen script. That's all they do in Atlanta. So many front. Exactly. That's all over the world. It's just Atlanta, Dallas, Kalawaki, Los Angeles, Sacramento, Denver, Albuquerque, Phoenix, anywhere you go, Florida, Miami, everywhere you go, is somebody faking it till you make it. Trust me. I have a friend, baby. I was thinking the old boy was rich. Dude told me he working 3 jobs. I was like, what? Friend of mine is like, oh, he working 3 jobs. Friend I went to high school with. I was like, man, he got it going on. He got this, he got that. He said he working 3 jobs, about to kill himself. Just trying to show y'all how much he got. You see what I'm saying? People will just try to show you anything. Just try to show you. They're gonna do anything just so they can make it. Just working themselves to the bone. We went on a cruise class reunion, and when I tell you, every time we go to the table, I'm buying a round of drinks on everybody. For everybody. It seemed like he did that every day. When we got back to Doc, they said his sign and sale was $1,700. Oops. What you been doing, boy? But see, that's what happens when you trying to put up that facade. Eventually that facade started breaking down and you start telling the truth about what was going on. Says RHOA, egos, right? You're on the right track, baby. I feel. Thank you, Sergeant Charge. I understand why she said no as well. Exactly. I understand. But I'm gonna tell you something, symmetry. I understand why she said no. But, just like the heartstring would want you to help someone who's down. But I understand why she said no, because they had did them totally wrong. Totally wrong. Marcel also turns his elementary check over to teach, and he should. And he should, because guess what? She's keeping house. Go on, put this check on over there. Hey, Divine Film. Thanks for joining. You said, even in exactly. Sometimes small towns are the worst. Symmetry stay on the job of being a mod somewhere, don't she? Well, we enjoy Symmetry. One of the hardest working mods on YouTube. Yeah, so where was I at? Martell says, are you serious? Because he doesn't believe Marcel when he says this is what's been happening for the past 7 years. He said, Marcel said during this time, he hasn't said anything about Martell. He said during this time, I haven't said nothing about you. I've responded, but I haven't said nothing about you. Marcel said that he doesn't lie. Marcel said he doesn't lie, right? Martell said Marcel needs to go home and pray about being a compulsive liar. Yeah, when you talk to Chris, you couldn't even tell Chris because Chris asked you point blank, what has Marcel lied about? You couldn't tell him what he lied about. So who's lying? Or is it just you don't like what he said? Just because you don't like what someone says doesn't make it a lie. It just doesn't. Marcel mentions Destiny's Field Day. And he said Marcel started it he started at the field day because he says, I learned yada, yada, yada. But we do know that it actually started from Ariane running her mouth online on social media. That's where all of that started from. And that clip where Marcel was talking about, he learned from Martell how not to have someone who would, be shareable or whatever, however he said it, was his point of getting back at Arion. Not so much Martell, but Arion. But it hit both of them. Martell wanted Marcel to admit he was wrong first, and then he said I'm going to apologize. He said, I want you to tell me, you're wrong first. Then he said that in confessional, but in his mind, that's really what his little clicker was telling him. I want him to tell me he was wrong. You're going to tell me how wrong you are, and then I'm going to apologize after you, but I'm not going to apologize until you tell me you're wrong. And he said there will never be any true resolution. Marcel said that he didn't want an apology because Martel's going to backtrack regardless. Martell begins to grovel. He begins to beg. He begins to plead. He says, let's just get past this, bro. Let's just get past this. Just listen to me. Come on, listen. Let's just get past this, bro. Martell says that I'll take accountability. I'm going to take accountability. But Marcel, he ain't buying it. When I say Marcel was tough, maybe took a puff of that cigar. He said, I ain't buying this. I'm not buying none of this. He said, it is very Martell not to change. This is not, he just don't change. Marcel said he only says things about Martell in response, and he's been saying that. Marcel said what he suggests is that Martell has a conversation with Marcel said, what I suggest you do is go have a conversation with your fiance about not talking about Marcel. And Marcel said he has no intentions of saying anything negative about Martell. And Martell says at the end of the day, it's going to be Team Holt, and Arion is Team Holt. We already know that Team Holt has gotten him in the past. I would suggest he leave Team Holt alone. It does not seem to benefit him in any type of way. Why he wants people to be Team Holt is beyond me. You had a Melanie that was a Team Holt, and she walked away from it, and now you expect someone else to run along and be Team Holt as well. I think you're insane. I think you probably should go home and pray like you suggested that Marcel do, because you need Jesus. You need to repent about your compulsive lying. I just put the link to the StreamYard in the chat if someone wants to join me on this stage and just chit chat. If y'all want to put it in the notes, we got about a few minutes we can chit chat about what you thought about the show. What did you think? It's peeped that Marcel didn't say that he would talk to Tisha about at all. I have nothing to talk to Team Scott about. I have nothing to talk to Team Scott about because when the day ends, they still have been just responding. Marcel and Tisha have just been responding. Tisha went on Carlos King and said what she said simply because of what was said to her on national TV. Do I think that more people were watching on national TV than they were on Carlos King's live? I'm not sure. But I do know that it was in response to, it wasn't because of. And I just don't know where they're going to go from here. Hopefully there will be some type of resolve. I'm not banking on it, but hopefully there will be some. I think it was a great show. Great episode. I really wish that Martell can really make a decision on what he's going to do as far as this show goes, as far as his friendship goes with Marcel. I think he really wants to be friends with Marcel, but he doesn't know how to apologize. And some people just don't. And maybe he needs help with that. And I believe that Marcel is going to help guide him through how to apologize, however that looks. Thanks for joining, Sergeant Charge. I appreciate you. Tisha was smart not to bring Martell in it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, she, besides what she said down there to the Carlos King show about him and the people from the college. But I think she only said that because of what they said there, what he said about her in the back of a Buick. I just really feel like he did himself. Martell actually he did himself an injustice. He shouldn't have ever did that. Oh, Marcel is done. I don't see them being close. Me either. Sometimes even if you forgive somebody, you never forget what they've done, and that can always make the situation a little bit harder to be around them, to have those type of a type of camaraderie that they'll never be what they used to be. Of course, they'll never be riding limos again and laughing and talking. But I will say this: we know what happened allegedly on the 10th anniversary in the back of the limo. And so their relationships must have been something really close for you to do something like that, allegedly in the back of the limo. So I'm not really sure why he would even do that, unless it just is the narcissism in him. Allegedly, if he's a narcissist, I'm not really sure. But why would you want to continuously degrade the one person who pretty much held some cards in his hand that would help you? And I believe Marcel has helped him since he's been divorced from his ex-wife. He has given him jobs. He's mentioned that over time. I've given you this job. I've given you that job. Marcel has protected his wife and kids, and that's what he should do. And I respect him for doing that. He even said that. But regardless of how Marcel goes around joking and laughing or whatever, I really believe his ultimate goal is to protect Tisha and his children. I don't think he's going to do anything that he thinks would harm them. But no one just let Martel just go around without, because he said there were jobs that he gave Martel after his divorce. They just wasn't going to let him back in the Scolt. And that's fair. That is fair, because we do know Martel is pretty handy with his hands with building. Of course, we see a house that he's built. It looks like a pretty nice house. We also see a modern house that the Scotts have built. We see Letitia out here making money moves, being a boss. What she calls herself, wifey boss, or whatever. She's opening up her own real estate agent. And the Scotts 2.0 have a title company. So they're making moves in Huntsville, right? And you could only be stagnant if you want to be stagnant. I think at this point, Martel just may be stagnant because he want to be stagnant, because these were your friends. If your friends are out here, like I said, the Scotts, the host thought they were here, and the Scotts, they thought all the Scotts were down there. And then when the divorce happened and the shift came, you ain't supposed to be there because you're supposed to be beneath me. So I'm gonna have to talk about you because you ain't nobody. How you think you better than I am? Because I cheated on my wife and now I got to be with allegedly the side piece. How you think you better than I am? When you didn't you do that too? Then we try to bring them down, and then we go search for people to bring them to the internet to try to keep bringing them down, whatever that looks like. But I do believe that the relationship is probably toast, burnt toast. I think that they probably can be cordial, but I don't think they'll ever be friends. All right, you guys. Thanks for joining the live today, tonight, this evening. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to get ready for bed right now. And if no one told you today they love you, I love you. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. We're going to be back next week to review this show again, to see where we're going, because I'm enjoying it. I enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed Macy and Marcel. I enjoyed Martel and Marcel. I enjoyed Chris and Martel. I enjoyed Ken and Will, and the ladies, Destiny, Sharon, and Trisha. I'm not sure if Sharon's going to be a permanent part of this show. I don't know. I don't know why she keeps appearing up on the screen, but it is what it is. You guys have a great night. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.